Welcome to Inspiring Nations with Sonia Keeve podcast show. Question: where do you draw your inspiration? Join us as we feature women across the globe with incredible stories of how they inspire nations every day. Now, here is your host, Sonia Keeve.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Inspiring Nations. I am your host, Sonia Keeve, and I am excited to bring another amazing woman to our show today. And we have the amazing Kocysha Lashaun. And let me tell you just a little bit about her. She is a teacher of spiritual growth, a professional and personal development coach, and she is the author of Humbled by His Grace. And I'm so excited to have her on the platform. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Miss Kocysha Lashaun. Hello, superstar.
Hello, Miss Sonia. Thank you.
I am so happy to have you. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Amazing. But for those, I know a little bit about you, but for those in my listening audience who don't know who you are, please introduce yourself and tell us who you serve.
Yes. So again, my name is Kocysha Lashaun of Be Accelerated into Purpose. And as you've already stated, yes, I am a teacher of spiritual growth, personal and professional development, and also an author of Humbled by His Grace. In addition, I am also a transcriber and a book editor. So that is a little bit more in addition to what was already stated. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Well, I am really interested to hear more about this teacher of spiritual growth. When I think about that, I think, from a religious perspective, of course, of
Yes.
spiritual growth. So are you working with women in how to grow spiritually, or just know more about their relationship with God?
So yes, I do work with women. I actually work with both women and men.
Okay.
But so as far as the spiritual growth, my focus is teaching spiritual maturity.
Okay.
And that's kind of where the personal professional development ties into, and it has a lot to do with self-awareness. One of my sayings, or my focus now is, or my favorite saying is, see self as God sees. And so that's what my focus is, or that's my mission as far as the spiritual growth part is, helping people to see themselves as God sees them, so that they can indeed learn how to walk into their purpose with more confidence, so to speak.
Okay. Now, I know for people that may not have a very strong spiritual foundation, when you say see yourself as God sees you, how do you translate God seeing us every day?
So say, for instance, if I were to work with someone that didn't have a strong foundation, then it would basically start with obviously having to peel back some layers and getting an understanding of how they view God in their life, and if they even have that spiritual relationship, so to speak.
Right.
So definitely start off with asking some questions to kind of get a feel of where they are spiritually. And then from there, I have a better understanding as far as how they view God and how they view themselves, because I feel like a lot of people are fearful as far as walking into their purpose because they don't see themselves that God sees. So that goes back to, it kind of aligns with identity and validation issues.
Okay.
Do they know who they are, and who are they looking for to validate? Are they looking to men? People, we grow up with so many people pouring into us, and we kind of lose sight of who God actually created us to be. So with that being said, so to see self as God sees us, pretty much just helping them getting rid of all of what everybody else has put over them or into them, and going back to who the Creator actually wanted them to be.
Wow, that's powerful. Now, I have to ask you, how did you even get started in this arena? Kind of what were the early steps that you took to get to the place where you are today?
So So as a teacher, I have always loved teaching. And I
Okay.
actually had a chance to actually teach secondary in 2010 to 2012, I taught and absolutely loved it. Doing that
Mhm.
teaching, during that particular time, I realized that I was coaching. I mean, and as a teacher, you have so many roles within a teacher.
Yeah.
So, but I've always also had a passion for teaching people how to grow spiritually, how to be more spiritually mature, because it has a lot to do with our relationship with others and how we handle certain situations. And
Yes.
aligned with that, is self-awareness. That's just something that I'm really big on, because when we understand why we do the things we do, why we believe
Mhm.
like we believe, then we have a better understanding on how to react and respond to different situations. Life happens, things are going to come up, and sometimes we respond not really knowing why, but when we become self-aware, then we understand this is why, and this is how I can change that thought so I can change that action.
Now that's interesting because I know with self-awareness, it can be a little difficult because we aren't taught to per se of how do we become more self-aware. We learn those skills much later in life. And
Yeah.
so with this whole idea of self-awareness, if if you're if you struggle in that area of self-awareness, like what would be kind of like the first step that you would walk somebody through in identifying how to have that inkling to be more self-aware?
So one of the things that I encourage people to do, or that usually comes to mind, is kind of do an assessment, a daily assessment. Like, okay, so
Mm-hmm.
tell me what happened today and how you responded. And if they responded negatively, I want to know what did that person say? How did that person say it? What was their attitude? What were you feeling when they said it that made
Right.
you? And again, it goes back to, like I said earlier, kind of peeling back some layers. Like, okay, because when we react, or how we react, it's not just coming up today. It's something that's happened before
Yeah.
that has conditioned you or conditioned us to act a certain way. So it would basically be them telling me what was going on in the moment that they got upset about something, and then just kind of going from there as far as asking different questions on what was going through your mind. And they have to be transparent with it in order to truly get to that, to the root of what the issue is. And with that, then that's where the self-awareness can come in. Like, this is why I've been reacting or responding this way, because of something really from my past, or because of something someone else has done previously that really didn't have anything to do with this present time.
Right. And so so with that whole self-awareness, do you have clients that come to you that may not be spiritually mature, but maybe they're seeking that professional or personal development?
Have I worked with? So if I were to have someone that came to me that was not, you said, not as spiritually mature.
Right.
So I've not had that I can
Okay.
think of,
Okay.
because and most people that I work with or that I know kind of understand it's going to be from a spiritual
Gotcha.
perspective. But at the same time, it's not like I can still work with people who are not spiritually mature. Again, the
Okay.
point is to, all of us are on different levels spiritually.
Yes.
So they may not be on my level or somebody else's level, but they have some knowledge, so to speak. So it would
Okay.
basically be just starting where they are, not trying to get them where I'm at or where someone else is, but pretty much just starting where they are, getting an understanding of their knowledge and where they are spiritually, and then just going from there. Because again, it's all about helping them grow. So even if they're not spiritually mature, then it's a question of, do you want to be? And
Ah.
how can I help you? Or what is it that you've been feeling that makes you want to be more spiritually mature?
And I asked that question because I know many people can attend church every day.
yes.
But not everybody is saved. And people at some points in their life, they do struggle and ask that question, how can I get closer to God, right? And so as they are attending the church where they live and they are seeking to be spiritually fed, and they're going on this journey to be more spiritually mature, do you find that prayer is a key component to help them develop this spiritual maturity, or is it just about hearing and doing God's word?
That's a good question. So, because one of my I won't call it a pet peeve, but one of the reasons that I'm doing what I'm doing and want to teach on spiritual growth, because I see so many new believers come into church.
Yes.
And they join, they get in a ministry, but they're not getting that the meat of it all, as far as building their relationship so that they can be better serving the ministry or whatever they choose to do. But so with that being said, and I kind of forgot that part of it.
Like for that new Christian, and as they're struggling to get that closer relationship, would you say that prayer is a component to building that spiritual maturity, or is it about just hearing and doing God's word?
So, and this is actually kind of one of the things that I get into in my book, Humbled by His Grace. So it definitely takes more than prayer. Prayer is learned. It's taught. We have to, teach people. A lot of people don't know how to pray. Prayer comes with, now we can pray as we talk to other people, we can talk that way to God. But I think some people with that also, you have to get into the word.
Yes.
You have to learn to read the word. And this is where I believe a lot of people have issues because, they don't quite understand it. But it definitely takes more than prayer as far as growing spiritually. It takes prayer. It takes reading His word, but not just reading the word. And something that I've learned recently is that when you read it, then ask God to show you, okay, now how can I apply what this word is saying in my life?
Yes.
And that's where the spiritual maturity really comes in. And it's not just reading, not just praying, not just going to church, but taking in the information that we learn. And then how can I now apply this? So if I'm learning about the fruits of the Spirit, if I'm learning about love, joy, peace, self-control, okay, I'm learning this. So now how do I actually apply it to my life? And when I learn to apply it to my life, that's when I learn to grow. That's where the maturity comes in at, as far as bringing in the new and getting rid of the old.
Yes. And so for my listeners, she made some very great points. That spiritual maturity, and I just want to piggyback on what you said, spiritual maturity is not only about reading the word, but then asking the questions, interpreting what you're reading, and then applying it to your everyday life. And as you continue to apply God's word, you begin to grow every day in a mature way of understanding that this is what the word says and this is how I can apply it to my life, so that I know how to operate by what God says. And so it goes right back to your topic, is that we have that self-awareness, and then we begin to understand that we can see ourselves the way God sees. So I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for that. And you mentioned your book. You are author of Humbled by His Grace. Please tell us a little bit about that book and what it is really all about.
So, Humbled by His Grace, it is 8 chapters, about a little under maybe 60 pages. So it is a quick read.
Okay.
But it is very powerful with a lot of inspirational insight. So it actually shares about, it was a book that I wrote in 2013.
Okay.
Free to download. Had never even thought about writing. I was out of work at this particular time.
Mm-hmm.
I just started downloading the chapters, the outline, the chapters and the words for this particular book. And basically it touches on how, because it's humbled by his grace. And a lot of times we feel like we have to be perfect before God, like we have to be this or that, and that certain things have to be in place. So it kind of talks about how God loves you in spite of your past. He loves you in spite of what you've done. It talks about how when you are running your race, things are going to happen in your life. Like we kind of mentioned earlier, things are going to happen, but you have to stay focused on what's in front. And in front is your reward from God. And in front is whatever God has next for you.
Yes.
But you have to know how to position yourself and how to walk and how to run your race in spite of the obstacles that are going to come. And that comes with, again, like we also just discussed a few minutes ago, how you get in the word, how you learn to meditate, how you learn to pray, and just start being and building on your relationship with God. Because once we realize how much he loves us, then you know that you don't have to be perfect, and you know that you don't have to have everything in place to do what it's calling you to do. So it kind of gets into that, on how it gets into how to, the different things that you can do to grow spiritually. And again, it shares some personal insights of what I was going through at that particular time as well. So
that is amazing. And I love the title, Humbled by His Grace, because one thing I know for sure is that when you're walking with God, it is a humbling experience, because one thing I know is that if you ever try to get ahead of what God has for you, he has a way of knocking you back down and humbling you.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So
prideful. And that's kind of what it touches on too, because that was my deal. Like had a lot of pride that I had to overcome, and then and I had to become self-aware about some things and peel back some layers. Like, okay, why are you so prideful? Why do you feel you have to be perfect? So yes,
that's amazing. Now, do you do your coaching full time, or are you working in a corporate job as well?
I am actually still at a corporate job full time. So I am. I work with a few people, but still at the same time kind of building it to where I want it to be.
Yes.
So, but yes, I'm still in a full time corporate job and putting in what time I can to make sure that I'm there for others and still serving and doing and building my business.
And then, so that leads me into this question, because especially for all of my parallelpreneurs that truly are working that full-time corporate job, but you have your business on the side that you want eventually to make it your full-time gig. So how do you manage your time between that corporate job and then trying to build your business at the same time?
So that can be a little bit challenging, because when my hours fluctuate. And sometimes when I get off work, I just want to come home and I don't want to do anything else. So I am still kind of working, and I end up being up late at night. And so sometimes I'm able to get some work in during the week, like especially like with my transcription work. If I'm doing transcription work for someone, I can do a few minutes through the week each night. But I have to, and I'm still learning how to make the best of my weekend time to get things done as far as my business.
Awesome. And what are some of maybe your daily practices that you do to kind of unwind or detox, just from the business, just from your 9 to 5?
So my biggest downtime, or how I unwind, is usually praise and worship music. Yes. I love my praise and worship music. Anybody knows me, that is what I'm listening to unwind. I have my YouTube playlist and with my go-to songs, and so yes, that's how I unwind.
And how important do you think it is to take that time just for you?
It's very important because what I find, if I don't, I get frustrated and I get either nonchalant or start to get testy and a little bit more sarcastic than usual. And so yes, it's very important because when we become too stressed out or too frustrated, it definitely starts to show in our attitude. It starts to show in our tone, and we may say or speak to people in a way that we normally wouldn't and don't wish. And then, of course, then you have to go back and kind of apologize, and that was not me. So it's very important to get in that rest and that me time.
And I want to just bring up something an important point that you brought up, because I know for some of my listeners who may not be spiritually in touch with who they are, who they serve, some people can be very turned off, unfortunately, with religion and faith just because they see with social media, they see, ministers that take advantage of their position. And so I know how important it is to have that moment of just being still, right? And having that clarity. So for you, how does your family feel just about everything that you're kind of doing? And it doesn't have to be religious based, but are there things that you may do outside of maybe listening to, gospel music? What do you feel about affirmations?
Affirmations. Aside from just my praise and worship, to unwind or just to lighten myself up, I will listen to comedy. I will listen to motivational, which recently is what I started doing. I will listen to some motivational videos from YouTube as well, with Eric Thomas and Joel Osteen. And so I will listen to those. So that's probably about the gist of it. So not too much, unfortunately, aside from that. But I do every now and then I will watch something that will help make me laugh, something funny or a comedy or something.
And then just for my listeners, it can be anything, because there may be someone who's listening right now and they may be in a place in their life where they're struggling. And maybe they're not in a place where they're spiritually mature right now. They are just struggling, trying to just wake up every morning. And I talk about that because, recently, if you've watched the news, there have been, Hollywood stars that have committed suicide simply because they've been just unhappy. On the outside for us, we see you have everything. But they're struggling inside. And so I know it's so important. And I asked a question about affirmations because one of the things that I find extremely helpful is for people to speak out positive things in their life. And people say, even if they're going through a lot, they can't find that one positive thing. And I'd say start with that you woke up this morning, right?
Yes.
And I think that, to get to that place of spiritual maturity, sometimes for some people, it may start with just saying a kind word or even having someone say a kind word to them, because we don't realize what people may be going through, the crosses that they may be bearing, simply because life is just hard. Would you agree?
Yes.
And so I love the fact that as a teacher, you are truly helping both women and men to build that foundation of spiritual growth, because I feel like it's necessary, because when the world turns their back on you, what do you have to hold on to, right?
Yes.
And so I think that your work that you're doing to help build people every day to be more spiritually mature, to get that foundation, is so important. And that's why I love this show, because you truly are inspiring women and men every single day. And even though my platform is specifically designed for women, I do have male listeners. So for my male listeners, I want you to know that, you too can have places that seem dark in your life. But I know that if you connect with someone like Kocysha, who can help you figure out your path, I feel like it gets you on a place of thinking more positive about your life. Would you agree?
Yes, and one of the things that I encourage people to do is, we have to take time out we have to take that me time. We
Yes.
also need that God time. And this is where prayer is significant at, I believe, in that, okay, so maybe they don't even know how to go to the Bible or which passage to even go to.
Yeah.
So all they have is their mouth. All they have are their words. And that is where prayer can be significant, and where you just sit and talk like, Lord, look, I'm going through this. And again, you talk to him like I'm talking to you.
Yes.
I have no idea what's going on. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to handle this situation. Lord, I'm in a bind, whatever the case may be, relationship, financial, children, work, whatever. But, just as we take that me time, we also have to take that God time. And that's where they can just sit and just pour. Because with God, and actually, okay, so I was listening to one of your other podcasts, and I can't remember who the lady was that you were talking to, but she mentioned that we can be naked and unashamed before God, but transparent with people. But this is where, for those who may not be as spiritually mature, not as in the Word, this is where you can be naked and unashamed before God. Sit before Him and just pour out your heart, and trust me, He is listening. He is listening, but we have to allow time for him to respond as well. We have a tendency to ask and want the answer immediately.
Yes.
And this is where self-awareness and just being alert comes in. Like, he's not going to, and another thing that I talk about in my book is how he speaks to me is not how he will speak with you. So be careful that we're not comparing, other people's praise reports with our own. So that's something that I really, really encourage, especially if they're not in a church, or maybe in a church, but just not quite there yet as far as knowing what scriptures to go to talk to God. That's where you can start. It doesn't cost anything, doesn't take anything else. Just take that time, that those few minutes, and you can start off with just a few minutes and just talk and pour your heart out to God. Pray for him to send someone into your life to help guide you.
Thank you for sharing that. And I hope for my listeners, you heard that. And if not, definitely go back to listen to the show so that you can get all of these amazing key points that Kocysha is sharing with you. And so for my listening audience, how can they get in touch with you if they want to know more?
So anybody that wants to get in touch with me, definitely do. I am always open to, this is just something I'm so passionate about. But you can reach me via phone, 501-764-2881, or email KOKO@Kocysha Lashaun, which is KOCYSHALASHAUN.com. Again, Coco@CocyshaLashaun.com. On social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. You can also find me under Kocysha Lashaun. I'm more active on Facebook, and my page is Be Accelerated into Purpose with Kocysha Lashaun.
Well, there you have it. There are all those amazing connection points where you can reach out to her and hear more about how you too can get more spiritually mature in your life, in every aspect of your life. And so before I let you go, like all of these amazing things that you're doing, what is next for Miss Kocysha?
So what's next? Several things. I am actually working on my first ghostwriting project for someone.
Ooh.
I will be featured in 2 anthologies coming up. I know one will be sometime this year, not sure the date. The other one is not until next year.
Okay.
Working on my second book, as well as adding a journal to go with Humbled by His Grace.
Okay.
And what else? And also for the men, I know this is mostly for women, but if men are listening, I am working on a men's conference to happen in September.
Okay. Well, we are definitely would love to hear more about that conference for our men. And again, if you need to get in touch with her, could you please repeat your phone number of how they can reach you again?
Yes, that number again is 501-764-2881.
Thank you so much. And before I finally let you go, because it was truly just an honor to have you here on the show today, I love to do this with all of my guests. There are 3 words I'm going to mention to you, and I want you to share the first thing that comes to mind when you hear them. The first word is faith.
Faith. The key to moving outside of your comfort zone and into the path wherever God is trying to take you.
Love.
Love. When we understand God's love, we're better able to love others.
Inspiration.
Inspiration. I encourage people to live a life that is inspiration to others.
Well, Miss Kocysha Lashaun, it was truly an honor to have you on the show with me today.
And thank you so much, Miss Sonia. Truly appreciate it. Love what you're doing, and pray that God will continue to bless you in all of your endeavors as well.
Thank you so much. And this is another edition of Inspiring Nations. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Inspiring Nations with Sonia Keeve. I challenge each of you to perform one simple act of kindness and pass it forward. For more information on how you can be a guest on our show, visit www.soniakeeve.com. We hope to see you next time.